next session is about, it is a panel discussion that we are going to have with 4 speakers. I see that my screen is freezed, but don't worry, I'm still there and I'm alive. So the panel discussion is about boosting internal communication and engagement by turning employees into advocates and ambassadors. These things that we have already talked about, but it is we're going to have a new insights from our 4 speakers. So we're going to host Ornella Rusciano, Bernadett Hornyak, Maryna Sharygina, hello Maryna.
Hello.
And Dennis Martin or Tole Olsen. So, whereas Maryna, sorry, arrived first, I will start with her presentation. So, Maryna, you the head of the department organization, leadership and change at the Amsterdam University of Applied Sciences. You were working in partnership with on several master programs. And by the way, in September, I've read that you are going to launch a new master program on global sustainable business management with a UK partner. So I wish you all the best for that. Bernadett Hornyak. Bernadett is the internal communication and social media manager at Toyota Motor Europe. You've been working for Toyota for the last 15 years, if I'm right. And Ornella Rusciano, I suppose.
Yes.
I hope it's the right way to pronounce it. Ornella, right. You were the internal communications and community management at Zalando. You were passionate about communication. You've been working for 10 years in this activities. And at the beginning of the COVID, you been working with the internal communications communities to strengthen and boost interpersonal relations. So that's, I suppose, have helped a lot within Zalando. And finally, we haven't seen yet Dennis, but Dennis should join us. Dennis Martin Tole Olsen is the Group Sustainable Change Lead at the Danske Bank Group. Dennis has been working in the financial industry for around 16 years, mainly in the Nordics, for Nordea, Saxo Bank or Danske Bank, where they are currently working now. His current position is he's working as the group sustainability change lead. He's responsible for driving the change management related activities into this sustainability strategy and initiatives. I leave you the floor. I hope, Dennis, you're going to join us in a minute, and we're going to have a panel discussion with you 4. Well, we can see only 2 of you, but with you 4 for the next coming 40 minutes. Welcome.
Thank you so much for the introduction. Yes. Yeah, Victoria is telling us.
Dennis is not going to join. I've just had and you can see it on the chat. He's sick. I hope he's fine. So I leave you the floor. We have Maryna again, Bernadett, and Ornella. Thank you.
Thank you, Elise. Yeah, I think Maryna had some issue with her connection.
Ornella, I think your mic is off.
It's
we can't hear you, so there is a little issue with the.
I can hear Ornella.
Can you hear me now?
Okay, it seems that it works for the others, not for me, strangely, but
we can. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much. Should we wait for Maryna for a few seconds because I don't see her in the call?
I don't see her either. Ah, she's coming.
There you go. Yes.
There you go.
So we had a chance to catch up with Maryna and Bernadett the other day, and we thought about dividing our panel into different stages of how the ambassadors would participate in our organization. In my case, I work with internal ambassadors, so they are ambassadors for internal communication, and they help me my communities better. And yeah, even though we saw many times today what are the benefits of the ambassadors, why do we need champions or ambassadors in our organization, we thought of maybe using the stage today to give you more practical examples on how to implement an ambassador strategy better in your organizations. So in my case, I will start with why do we need ambassadors and what are the practical benefits of having them. And I think that the main thing we should consider is that yes, ambassadors are not influencers, but they are very similar to what influencers are nowadays, even though we don't actually pay ambassadors to do this evangeline our communities, and this is because ambassadors gain their trust. They gain the trust of their communities or the communities they are representing, and that's how they become trustworthy whenever we need them to spread information or to reach out to the community. And a good thing about ambassadors is that they can always share with other ambassadors what's up with their. Oh, Maryna dropped again. We are having some technical issues. Yeah, so it's very good that ambassadors can also share between them what's going on, what's up with their teams, with their peer groups, and this offers a great space for creativity. Social psychology says that whenever there's people involved in the same group, creativity is always boosted, it's always improved, and this gives you a safe space to share and to be creative on how to solve like maybe common issues from day to day in a community. So those are two of the benefits: boost creativity and exchange and influence people and reach them better, but also by harnessing an ambassadors round, an ambassadors community that also represents and is the voice of a much larger community behind them, you also make sure that the people behind those ambassadors know that they are being heard, they are being taken care of whenever we share our communication strategy, or we share information, or we share new activities for our community, especially in these times that each of us are in our own bubbles, in our own homes, working separate, not sharing a desk, not sharing like the team spirit we would have in the same office. So it's very good that the ambassadors have this safe space with their communities and between them and with us as communicators to exchange. And having this and having people know that they are being heard, they are being taken care of and taken into consideration, also make people think about it twice before switching to another company, before going to a new community, meeting new colleagues, or going into a new employer. So I think the benefits, we've seen them many times today, but in a nutshell, basically ambassadors help us do our job better. Maryna, you're back.
I'm back. Sorry, this is one of the examples when technology lets you down, and I don't like relying on it, because when it's time to perform, you depend on someone else.
But you know what? One good thing about this whole year in home office is that we've had this situation that you are on mute, you drop from a call, your light goes off so many times that no one here is shocked by connectivity issues anymore.
True, but it's still quite frustrating, right?
Don't worry. So another good thing I wanted to talk about was how to choose the right ambassadors, because when we speak about ambassadors, in the past, we often thought that choosing an ambassador or choosing a champion was actually about choosing the person with the loudest voice or with the strongest attitude, the strongest opinions. And nowadays, especially in the current setup, we have to consider several things when we are choosing these ambassadors to represent the group of people behind them. So I wanted to give you like 5 points. Of course, I have a cheat sheet here to remember what goes in which order. But yeah, I wanted to give you these good examples on how an ideal ambassador would look like. And I think the first one is that the ambassador we choose needs to be ready to listen. This may sound obvious, but an ambassador needs to have the ability to stop and listen to whatever the people behind them have to say without judging, just listening. And that way, that person can process the information and then transmit it to us in a very clean and non-judgmental way. Then the second point, very important for an ambassador, is that they need to be empathetic. This is also, of course, attached to the previous point, but being able to put themselves in the people they are representing shoes, and being able to understand not only from their own point of view, but also like how the person sharing an insight, sharing an information, sharing a concern might feel at that very moment is also very important. Then the third point would be that the ambassador is trustworthy, because you don't want people to change your word. I think Maryna will talk later about how to make the message, like the right message, reach the right port. And an ambassador should be a person that the community really trusts and doesn't think about it twice when they read something that person sent, or when they hear something that person said. For the point number 4, an ambassador needs to be proactive, someone that's really always looking for different answers from different point of views, a person that's looking for a solution, regardless of if they need to contact the person next to them or go like way above their pay grade to look for the impossible and search for that person that has the answer to their community problem. And we want our ambassadors to be actual agents of change. And point number 5, and a very important one, at least for me, is that ambassadors need to be social, natural leaders, but they also need to be able to not take all the stage. An ambassador needs to be to be a representation of their community, needs to be the voice of their community, but doesn't need to be the community, you know? That person needs to be able to not have a big ego, to not lose themselves in the role of an ambassador, of the representation of their community. So those are my 5 tips on how to choose better ambassadors. And I think now I will give the word to Maryna.
Okay, thank you, Ornella. Well, I would like to start by saying that I do not work for internal communications department. And this is actually where part of my input to this panel is about. What I want to say, first of all, is I think especially when it comes to change and kind of pushing some new initiatives within the organization, everyone plays a communications role. So whether you are from internal communications department or outside, external communications, doesn't matter. I mean, every employee has a certain role. And what I want to focus on is the role of the leader who is acting as an ambassador when it comes to various communication initiatives. Because as you see increasingly in the last year, the volume and the variety of communication methods that employees have experienced is tremendous. So it's very easy to overlook things, to get distracted, and simply, and I'm sure all of you can relate, we get so many different stimuli that we are not receptive to those anymore. So clearly then people within the organization, they miss important messages. And this has been the case within our business school. So for instance, when we were making the switch to online testing system, to moving our teaching from one platform to the other and so on, what we've realized is people simply just miss those, generic messages that, internal communications department will send to us. So basically what I want to focus on, or the point or the takeaway that I want to give in this session, is that what is the role of a department head in this? So basically, people in my team, for instance, they are more receptive to the messages that they receive from me. So any types of changes or me informing them about things that we're going to do differently. If I'm the one sending them, that they are more open to those and they're less likely to miss those messages. So what I want to say is very often I find that organizations don't use the managers enough as a tool to be those ambassadors of change. And obviously the benefits there are that a leader, and of course here I'm talking about a good leader, is a trusted source, right? We rely on that person, especially in the situation of crisis or in the situation of change. These are the people we look up to. These are the people that we trust. They're gonna, make it happen. They're gonna help us get through this difficulty. So this is where I myself, having the team, that I work with, I feel this is my responsibility. So perhaps my reach is going to be very small. So here it's narrowed down to my span of control or circle of influence, if you will. Maybe it's a better way to put it. But I still feel that at least then that message reaches the people. And based on what Ornella was saying, when it comes to feedback, very often in this ambassadorial roles, very often we forget to take in the feedback. I'll give you a small example. Our organization is trying to push our teachers to work more and more with Microsoft Teams. And we all are used to Teams and so on, but basically for online class delivery, Zoom is a lot more friendly for our students and our staff to work with. Our communications department has assigned ambassadors who actually promote the use of Teams and are trying to push that on our staff, to which me and some other colleagues, perhaps forming resistance would be quite harsh, but it's true, to which we say, well, look, one thing I understand that as an organization, we want to work with Teams for meetings and all, the other functionalities that it has. However, for the delivery of classes, I would not actually force my people to give up Zoom. I prefer to not micromanage and tell them how to do their job, especially if this message comes from somebody from internal communications. And basically, it's the person who is not on the work floor. And this is, I guess, one of the messages related to this ambassadors pushing the message or the change initiative. It has to be a person who knows what they're talking about. So who is directly related to the implications that the staff on the floor is going to deal with every day. So I guess that sort of sums up what I had to share with you today. And I'm going to give the floor now to Bernadett.
Yeah, thank you so much. It's really, really interesting to hear, and I think my perspective will be slightly different. Of course, I can relate to all of what you guys were saying, especially Ornella. Ambassadors, creating a trust environment, having their voices heard, everyone's voices heard is also something, of course, that we are currently trying to do. For us, there has been loads of changes, and that is currently, I think it's super interesting times. The automotive industry, I don't think I need to say that it's really going through huge changes and once in a lifetime transition. So we really need to make our colleagues follow, and it's a full culture change that is happening besides COVID and everything. And it was not caused by COVID necessarily, but we've started to have a wind of it even before. And last year, our president came up with kind of a new mission statement saying Toyota's mission is mass production of happiness. And first we said, it sounds a bit weird. What does actually mean? And then he tried further elaborating, and basically what's behind is that from this world where it was all customer first, and the employees were nowhere, basically. So we were all taking care of everyone else, but then our workforce. Now it's we are switching to a people first approach, and in, of course, people first, we now recognize our employees as well. So it's a major change. That plus COVID also put I think internal comms in right in the center of everything that we've been doing. I think we heard that also today already, but that is true. And of course how we approach things, of course, ambassadors, and yeah, employee happiness, more productivity, retention rate. This is something, of course, even needless to mention. We also use our employees or utilize their capability of telling stories, not just internal comms that tells all the stories, but even writing like guest bloggers some change stories that they've themselves experienced. That is, yeah, I think in terms of authenticity, nothing comparable. And then, of course, that's really great. And it's focusing actually really internally. But what we also started doing, like, okay, next to the retention rate, we also need to attract new people to the company. We also need to continue recruiting new talents, especially for us when it's now changing industry. We really need to innovate and get some new talents as well, maybe totally different profiles than previously. So this is where the employer branding for us comes into the picture, and not just having these ambassadors acting internally, but also take it outside. And I think Tessa today, Patrick talked about employee advocacy. We are also trying to do this since a year. We have a platform or a vendor that is called Dynamic Signal, and we are proposing some content to our employees as well to be shared on their personal social channels. And of course, I think the first step of everything is that employees need to feel well in the company. An unhappy, frustrated employee who is overall thinking of leaving or not exactly the happiest person in the company will necessarily not share happy, good Toyota-related news on social networks. So I'm not saying this is the first to start with to immediately propose social content for our employees, but once you've done the groundwork that kind of Ornella and Maryna were explaining, I think it's the next step can also be show this to the outside world. Try to position yourself as the best company to work for on social media as well. And yeah, it's concerning the how you attract new people. So we've been on this journey. I think it's rather the beginning still of the journey. I had plenty of questions to Tessa as well, how to get the grip, because currently we have a fairly low amount of people who've connected social channels to the tool. We want it to go totally organically, so we don't really advertise this as like, okay, you will get some points, and so we don't incentivize. We really want this to happen as an organic, genuine activity, and therefore we still need to see how we progress with it. But yeah, we're quite happy with what we see as a progress, and we're doing, of course, some tutorials of also for our employees to education and educate well how to interact on social media. Nowadays, we think everyone is familiar with everything, not necessarily. I mean, you see some parts of the population which maybe don't necessarily use that much. Having a Facebook account does not mean that everyone is super familiar with how, for example, a LinkedIn in a professional environment is working. So we're working on that one as well. Really encouraging, not spreading like super strict social policies like you can't do that, you can't do that. It's more teach them to walk and then they can run after with it approach. And yeah, so it's a really exciting journey. And again, I think the two goes together. First, definitely you start with internally, and if you think the population is strong enough, you have right ambassadors, I think you can go then look outside as well and spread the word around your company outside.
Any other things you want to add, or shall we move to the questions?
Just I wanted to say I had to mute myself because the sky is falling and there's a huge storm. So if you see flashes here, it's that no one is taking pictures.
Where are you based?
In Berlin.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, I also wanted to add for Matthias' question that I currently work with a stable group of ambassadors, but in previous experiences, I also had groups of more dynamic ambassadors that would change from time to time to keep things more active and more live. In my experience, having a group of ambassadors that's not very stable will not give you like a measurement of your actions and something to look back and say, okay, these are the highlights, these are the lows. As Elise was saying, I think in the previous keynote you were saying, what you cannot measure doesn't exist. And having a stable group of people gives you that possibility of seeing how those people improve in time, not only their collaboration with the community they are representing, but also towards you, like working with you, but also gives you a measurement, a way to really see what was done right, what was done wrong, what you can change, and how those people improve. Because in the end, we are like throwing the word ambassador all day, and we forget that these are real people behind. And in, I would say, 95 or even more % of the cases, being an ambassador is not a remunerated role. Is someone that chooses to represent the values of your team, of your company, and proactively does it because they're passionate about it. So yeah, I just wanted to add that in my experience, it's better to have a stable group of people. Then you refresh it, then you move it around a bit to give it some zest when you see things need a bit more condiment. But it's better to have a stable group.
Okay. There a question coming in, and but it's also I got another one, so we can mix the two. Do you have dedicated time for those ambassadors? Is it written somewhere that they at a certain stage of a project they have 5%, 10% of their time dedicated to being an ambassador? Or is it something that it's not really written anywhere, and we just trust the people who are volunteer for being ambassadors?
In our case, we started putting it into their yearly objectives, and it's really part of their core job description, as you say, sometimes 5, sometimes even 10%, because we saw that you cannot burn them fully out, right? I mean, these are already enthusiastic people for a certain topic. It's kind of the only remuneration that you are doing is that it's listed in the overall yearly targets, because if not, I think the focus can go down if we have a lot of work to do, and then the quality will not be that great, and not because they don't want to do, but of course the priority will be the things that he's or she is being evaluated on at the end of the year. So we saw that by putting it in the yearly targets, it reassures that it's a stable quality what they deliver, and you can really trust, and it's working much better as it's present.
Okay.
Well, with us, we well, the ambassador that was assigned to my department to roll out this Teams Force project, he's part of the project, but it doesn't say specifically in his role that part of that is being an ambassador. So he does that as part of the team, but it's not explicit, or it's not part of the KPIs. Well, what is expected of him is that he does show the team like different tools of what you can use Teams environment for, but it's not specifically stated, and neither does he get any bonus or so.
We have a similar case to Maryna, but we do have a space where we get together with all the ambassadors, we exchange ideas, and we have like a safe environment where we talk about what's going on, but we don't have it as a specific role expectation. Okay. Being an ambassador, of course, has expectations. Those are clear, but we don't measure that, we don't time it, we don't add it to our, we don't log it as working time, you know, like something special in our agenda.
Okay, good. And can you see, we were talking before about, you know, the digital ninja. Are these ambassadors that are volunteers? Are they digital ninjas, or are they representing, I would say, the organization? So they are ambassadors that are been in the company for many years, and some newcomers. What can you see in this population?
Well, perhaps I start first. In our case, what we see is usually it's the passion. So people like a certain, you know, part of the, you know, the initiative, and that's why they, yeah, in a way, volunteer to do that. So yeah, this specific person, he really likes data analytics and dashboards, and he, you know, spends a lot of time working on different projects in this environment. So having had that experience, he feels he wants to share with the rest of the world how wonderful that is. But of course, that's not everybody's cup of tea. So you can't expect that digital ninja to you know, kind of transform all the people into digital ninjas. Neither do we, do we have that need to do so? We don't. It's just nice to know what are the the capabilities of certain software, but not necessarily that we're gonna force everyone to do what he likes to do, for instance.
Good. Ornella, Bernadette, what can you observe?
In our case, I think being an ambassador really, as we can see in our panel, it really has a different meaning depending on the company, depending on the industry, on the activity you do, because it's so versatile and it has so many meanings that an ambassador can be, from the case of Bernadette, that she has ambassadors that really share the company content towards their social profiles, their personal profiles. So it's towards the audience. And in Maryna's and mine situation, I think it's something more internal, where ambassadors share within our own internal communication and community. So I think the ninja concept doesn't apply in my case, but I do understand that it's a necessity for an ambassador that will represent the company towards the public.
Plus, in certain cases, it's like our extended hands, because honestly speaking, there are so many new topics popping up. The company is now switching up gears in diversity, equity, and inclusion activities. I mean, if everything needs to be handled by a team of 4 people that is officially having the title internal communications, that's going to be impossible. So by having these ambassadors, that is also, in our case, for example, there are now D&I champions in the company. They're helping with communications. They're coming with the initiatives. They are following up because they are passionate about that topic, personally involved, and so this is also a huge extended network of helping hands in terms of, and then you're able to tackle much more. You can tap into many more areas than if you're strictly with those 4 people, for example, doing the job, and you can write 3-4 articles a year about that specific topic. Here, I think we started doing really many more and much richer content, thanks to the fact that our champions are involved and they are also helping. And this is currently just purely internally, so I'm not even talking about the external social sharing.
Yeah, if I understand, your ambassadors, and then maybe specifically for you, Bernadette, they are the kind of business process owners, or they are experts in their domain, and they're keen to share what they know to a larger community that they colleagues around them. This is the case. Is it how you could describe those ambassadors?
It can be this as well, and the DE&I, of course, came to open up for a population of maybe their voices were not heard as well, and they weren't part of at all our communities, and there we had people coming up with disabilities that we don't even know this is not visual disabilities, but then we got to know that actually that person is living with that and that, and of course he had a totally different view on the whole DNI ambassadorship, etc. So it's really a rich exercise to having these 20-something champions DNI, and of course we have ITND champions. Those are really, I think you mentioned the digital ninjas that are really like precursors, early adopters, really interested in coming up with use cases of how to use the different tools and trying to bring along everyone who is maybe left behind on teams.
Okay, cool.
One thing that digital ninjas do share with ambassadors is the adaptability that they need to really communicate and adapt to like different situations in the different communication stages.
Would you say that those having those ambassadors make your organization more agile?
I think, yeah.
Yeah. So you're more into the continuous improvement, and then so how, for instance, this department, continuous improvement department, how do they react? How do they interact with these ambassadors?
Well, I would say that having an effective ambassadors round that not only shares information top to bottom, but also gives you that retro feedback that you need to know if that content reached the right people and how that people perceived it and what they think. If you receive the feedback on how you can improve all of that, on what's good and what's bad and what's wrong and what can be improved, that makes you immediately more agile, because you can receive someone's feedback. I was going to say criticism, but constructive feedback, and know that you could do something to improve it and ignore it. And I think the ambassadors are a good example of being open to receive that and take action on whatever comes your way. So if you have an ambassadors round, you need to be ready for that.
Okay. Very good.
And for me, sorry to jump on, absolutely. I think the agile in terms of these messages passed by the ambassadors to other peers flows much better. It lends much better because either because it comes from a personal passion that they explain this, or simply because it's not a top-down approach. Some of the people opens up much better and much more receptive for that. And therefore, in terms of cultural change, for example, I think they have a key role in this. It's not just the speed, but the authenticity of the message is going much better. And for us, we can see in terms of readership, those stories that are written by our colleagues in terms of what are the visible signs of change, and they are coming from their own area. So it's really authentic, right? It happened to them. It's not someone that or something that they heard that someone said. No, it is in their department or even them doing it. Nothing better than to demonstrate that actually change is really happening.
I don't know if you answered the questions, or maybe it was not raised as a question. How do you deal with the languages? Because especially for you, Toyota, I mean, the people might don't understand, let's say, French or English, or be not very keen to write in English. Or how do you manage this? Because the ambassadors are not the ambassadors for one country. They are also the ambassadors for the whole organization. So how do you deal with this?
But our structure is basically, so I'm working in the headquarters, and the official language here, even though we have 63 different nationalities, is always English. So and I'm talking about, of course, the office workers. And then, of course, as the headquarters, we're kind of, in terms of D&I or gender diversity or any other huge ongoing topics, we're kind of doing best practice sharing with the other national sales and marketing and Toyota entities in the different countries. and then they, in their local language, engage with their workforce. So we don't try to, from Brussels headquarters, engage with a Romanian colleague, for example. This we never do. It always goes via the Romanian Toyota entity or the Danish one. I can say whatever. Basically, here it is. There are certain tools that can, if we roll it out and we started, then it can probably reach. But we will always try to keep the countries as a gatekeeper, because we do believe that there is a certain cultural diversity. Some of the messages can be humor as well. It can be other things passes in one country, not necessarily will pass that well in another country, religion, etc. So we try to leave in the hands of the national companies this. And of course, we show how we did it, headquarters. Sometimes they are much more advanced than we are, so we are learning a lot. The best practice sharing is not just from us to them because we are the best, but we're learning a lot as well from the national companies. In some cases, here I think we can learn a lot. And yeah, this is how we manage it.
Okay. Is it the same for you at Zalando? Sorry, Maryna, you wanted to say something. Sorry.
Yeah, I wanted to add, I think a lot of that comes about source credibility, because obviously when you pick those ambassadors, you have a very good think of why that person would carry on a message and how influential they will be. So you don't just put somebody from the outside and just, you know, drop them like a bomb, because people will not be receptive to it. So I think it's, you know, it's the person who has to be persuasive and authentic enough, and because people can always tell if the person who is trying to promote a certain initiative, if they mean what they say, if they like what they do or not. So I think credibility and likability in a way are very important factors in choosing those people.
Yes. Ornella, sorry, is it the same at Zalando, but the languages and then what Maryna just raised?
My company's official language is English, so we are lucky we don't have the problem. We have colleagues that only speak German, but they are, I would say, the least cases, and we manage our communication in English. Yeah, that's also part of our way to be inclusive. We had a very interesting conversation this morning. I think actually my lead is here today watching, and we had a very interesting conversation today because we were discussing that in such an international company, having the chance to speak all the same language, it's so important to also include everyone in the room. That we only choose to manage our communication with our ambassadors in English, even though like we have ambassadors from different countries. We are all working in Germany, so our communication is in English. And I wanted to add one more thing, based on what Lika said. People trust their colleagues, not corp comms. And I think that's something super important, that an ambassador could give you that reach you don't have as corporate communications to reach that colleague that is always reluctant to trust what the company says, because maybe, you know, they are telling us this, but they are not telling us the truth. You know, they are not telling us everything. But when the information comes from a peer, comes from a colleague, trust, that's so much more likely to have a positive impact, to have more acceptance. That this is also one of the huge benefits of having an ambassadors round.
Good. And you have, that's my final question. Do you sometimes gathered all the, well, that's in the previous life before COVID. Did you gather all the ambassadors at some point just to make them being a community themselves? Did you do that? Did you do that, or and then with which intent?
Every 2 weeks. Every 2 weeks we meet with all the ambassadors and we
all together.
Yes, of course, online. But yeah, we have a call. We see how everyone is feeling, what they've been doing, and honestly, to me, before I was actually an ambassador, and then I moved to the community management role, and this was so important for me before as an ambassador, because I could see what other teams were doing for their team, how they were feeling in the home office situation, how they would connect to their colleagues, how they, I don't know, organize a simple coffee chat in the morning to stay connected. see their faces, to see if they needed something, especially in such international cities like the ones we are living, like most like big cities in Europe. We have so many people moving to a specific city. In my case, Berlin. I have so many colleagues moving to Berlin only for the job, to then find themselves working from home, alone in a small apartment, without saying a word to a real person all day. That having the chance to share that with our colleagues and to see how each team on their own managed to overcome that situation, to improve, you know, their interpersonal relations. I think it's super important. So twice a month we meet with all the ambassadors, and we discuss like different topics.
Bernadette, I suppose is the same, maybe not the same frequency, but
yeah, it depends on the topic, I think, but we also have regular meetings with the different champions, and I think it's really important that the champions amongst themselves exchange as well, and the different questions they face when they go out. It is discussed. It's also, I think, very important that the champions function based on a common understanding, and they don't just respond to all these questions based on their own understanding, but based on a common, well-defined Q&A, right? Okay, it's not every department will receive a different answer based on the champion's understanding, but there is one solid centralized document that yeah, everyone is spreading.
I have last question. Sorry, I said that the former one was the last one, but I have another one. You said you still have these meetings with the champions, the ambassadors, whatever the names. Are you going to have physical meetings with them soon, or are you going to keep on being on virtual meetings and distantial meetings? It's the same question for you, Maryna, because I suppose that you're launching a new program with some of your colleagues in the UK, and you've been working, I suppose, all that time with a distantial mode. Are you going to do physical people where people can meet, you know?
Well, actually, I think if I hear my colleagues who work in the corporate world, we are a lot more relaxed with that, because we are able to go to work as often as we want. It's all like, you know, COVID proof. Like, we have stewards on every floor. It's a bit surreal, but we are able to. And actually, the planning that we do for the next academic year, the best case scenario is physical delivery, being able to meet in person. We already had, for instance, strategy day with our management team and other heads of departments on May 10th. So we were in one room together all day. We had drinks after it. It was amazing. It felt wonderful. So I'm not trying to make anybody jealous here, but I feel very, very privileged that I don't need to go through all kinds of approvals. Only the steward barking at me if I, you know, like walk on the wrong side of the corridor. But yeah, we're planning for physical delivery, best case scenario.
Okay, and you, Bernadette and Ornella, how your companies are going to deal with this?
For us in Belgium, I think the next step, the government is releasing some COVID measures as from the 9th of June, but we decided not to follow now that religiously the government's recommendation, and the mass return, of course, with all sorts of restrictions, if the vaccination goes well, if the infection rate doesn't go up, then the mass return in a hybrid way, of course, is as from September onwards. So we will not ask people to come back before, if they want to, if they feel the need to, because a small apartment, isolated, they are going crazy at home alone, then yes, they can come back as from I think next week already, or in 2 weeks. Limited amount, that's not full time, but like once or twice a week, and then this whole hybrid will settle hopefully by September.
Ornella?
I would love to say yes, but honestly, I have no idea. It hasn't been decided yet, and yeah, I mean, I would love to. Part of my responsibility would be to organize the year-end event. So there's really nothing I would love more than to have the chance to like meet all my colleagues and organize something for them, especially after such hard times we've been through. But
Okay.
I have no idea. I would be lying if I told you.
No, that's fine. Don't worry. Thank you very much. It was a very, rich and very interesting conversation that you had, and all this information I think are very useful for all the attendees. So we got now our last session. It's a panel discussion that we're going to have with three speakers. Thank you very much, Ornella, Bernadett, and Maryna.
Thank you so much. Bye.
Have a nice day.
Bye-bye.